All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Fire Safe Sonoma speaker series. Looks like we have some folks coming in, and we're going to get going as more people start coming in. So welcome everybody. I see some familiar faces. Glad to see you guys. Glad to see you regulars. Appreciate all that. It doesn't look like we're going to break our attendance of 25 attendees today, so there will not be a door prize. For those that don't know, whenever we have 25 or more attendees, Roberta offers a door prize. And the way we do that is after the presentation, I go in and look at all the emails of everyone that attended and have Microsoft Excel do a random selection of one of the folks that attended, and they will receive, usually it's a book or something like that related to wildland fire safety that I give out as a door prize. And that currently comes out of my own pocket for the budget because I haven't asked for it yet for funding for that. So anyway, so be aware, if you pop in at another time for one of our speaker series presentation, if there's 25 or more, we do the door prize. I'm not even going to tell you what the door prize was going to be. Okay, so again, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining today. As usual today, there's three of us from Fire Safe Sonoma making this presentation happen. There's myself, I'm Roberta McIntyre, President and CEO of Fire Safe Sonoma, a nonprofit. So if you want to donate, go to our website and donate. We can always use extra money to keep doing the things that we do. And then also helping me today is Marika Ramson. She's our county coordinator and outreach specialist. And then also behind the scenes is Mason Innumerable. He's our Grizzly Corps fellow. It was our Grizzly Corps fellow. Now he's working with us part-time for about a month and a half to help us do things like we're doing now. So welcome everyone, and thanks Marika and Mason. I could not do this without you. We are a team. All right, as we're doing this program, the town of Lathena and the entire state of Hawaii, they're still reeling from the devastation of a serious wildfire. And I wanted to share with you guys that the California Fire Foundation has started a relief fund for the citizens and firefighters impacted by that August 23 Maui wildfire. And 100% of those proceeds will be directed to the Hawaii Firefighters Association, International Association of Firefighters, Local 1463. And they're going to directly administer aid to survivors of the fire and firefighters who've been injured and or lost their homes in that wildfire. So I think Mason's going to drop that link in the chat. So if you can donate there as well. And then last month we had Doria Said, I hope I still pronounce that correctly, from the California Department of Insurance. And she helped us understand what's going on with the California Insurance Commissioner's Office related to the insurance rates, home fire insurance, what kind of discounts might be available depending on your individual scenario, things like that. For example, we're learning that if you do a significant amount of structural hardening, defensible space, and are a member of a FireWise community in good standing, there's a really good chance that you could get a discount on your insurance. We know that folks are getting those discounts, but it still seems that there's some huge inconsistencies in terms of what's happening in that space. So stand by, we'll update folks on that as those things evolve as best we can. And then next month, we'll have Nancy Brown from the Sonoma County Department of Emergency Management on the program. And she's going to talk about, I think, a little bit about what her office does and share with you some nuggets that she believes will be important to be aware of for emergency preparedness in Sonoma County. All right. And then best of all, this month we have Mike Wilson from the California Fire Safe Council, and he's going to educate us all about our parent Fire Safe Sonoma, Fire Safe Council at the state level, and talk about what's going on with the California Council and talk about some of the opportunities that they have to offer all of us, Fire Safe Councils, large and small. And Mike grew up in Northern California, surrounded by a family of firefighters and law enforcement. His parents instilled in him a sense of duty to serve and protect his community. And it was no surprise when he followed in their footsteps. After graduating from high school, he joined the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection as a firefighter. He transitioned into the Fire Prevention Bureau, woohoo, yay, where he worked closely with at that time, CDF law enforcement officers. And then from there, he transitioned into municipal law enforcement, where he took on a variety of assignments and worked his way up through the ranks. Then he became a chief of public safety, overseeing a combination police and fire agency. He worked also as county director of emergency management, where he helped prepare his community for disasters, both natural and man-made, and served as deputy regional administrator for the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, where he helped coordinate disaster response efforts on a larger scale. Mike, I did not know all that about you. Oh my gosh, this is good to know. And most of all, he is passionate about protecting his community from the devastating effects of wildfires and works tirelessly with the California Fire Safe Council to ensure that his region, Northern California, is prepared for any potential fire-related emergencies. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to you, Mike, and you have the floor, and I will go dark, and we're all anxious to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Roberta. What a great opportunity it is, and thank you so much for allowing me to come and be on your speaker list. I think this is great. So, you heard a little bit about me. The one thing I will share is that I'm a storyteller, and part of what I'm going to be doing today is talking about some stories. And really, what those stories are about is my why. And I have one of my fellow California Fire Safe Council peers here, Laura Papiak, who taught me that what is your why? And that's something I'll be putting back on you as an audience today, is what is your why? And so to start off with, I'm going to talk a little bit about my why. As Roberta mentioned, I had a great career working with the California Department of Forestry with several different law enforcement agencies and fire agencies across the state, also a county director of emergency services, and eventually Cal OES as a deputy regional administrator. During that time, I was heavily engaged in a variety of wildfires across the state. But the one thing that I noticed from 1985, when I started my career in fire, until the end of my career, is that fire changed. And that change meant changes in fire behavior and watching fires grow much larger. I remember back to July or August 1985, fighting a fire that was just over 1,000 acres. And at that time, the discussion amongst the fellow firefighters I worked with was, hey, this is a huge fire. And that 1,000 acres seemed like quite a bit back in those days. Now, there were bigger fires for sure. But the one thing that we didn't realize is that those fires would continue to grow and become more devastating as our careers and our lives went on. Throughout my career and having that opportunity to watch the behavior of fire and wildfire, I noticed a few different things. Communities were impacted. We lost a great deal of not only communities, but people and property and resources, but a lot of ourselves. What really happened to several folks during my period of time as a career public safety person was that many of us were impacted emotionally by fires that occurred throughout the 35 plus years that I did this. speaking of that, Roberta and I had a discussion as we were starting this meeting, and it would be wrong for me not to share. We lost a great friend in the fire service, and just learned today that Fire Chief Ronnie Coleman passed away. And Ronnie was a huge impact in all of our lives, and a person who touched us. And so that, again, Ronnie's now above us and up there watching all of us in this meeting and across the state, helping to lead and teach leadership by example, and to show how to get out there and make a difference. So Ronnie, to you, a toast. This is iced tea. So you're a good friend, and we're going to miss you. Throughout that time in my career and watching the devastation of wildfire, it didn't really begin to impact me towards the end of my career. And it was September 15th. Now I'll take that back. It was July 30th, 2014. We were going through a pretty significant lightning storm in the northern part of California. And during that storm, a couple ignitions occurred in the upper Siskiyou area, and the beginning of the Beaver Fire. And it was the first time in my career that as a station chief, we heard all the tones of the entire county go out for Siskiyou County to dispatch every single fire unit in Siskiyou County to a fire in the area of the Klamath River and towards Happy Camp. And watching and hearing that happen, you start thinking, wow, this seems pretty overwhelming. Well, the first units to respond on that fire arrived, and they found that fire was burning with extreme behavior, and what was to become a pretty common thing over the next several years, with the Beaver Fire eventually destroying several structures in the Siskiyou County area and burning for several months. Several thousands of acres. And again, from that time period when you looked at 1,000 acres and thought that was a big fire, when you get into those much bigger fires, it starts becoming quite impactful. About a month later, or a little over that time, I was dispatched to the Bulls Fire up in Weed, California. And during that fire, 165 homes were destroyed, and 7 structures were damaged, and only 1 injury, amazingly. The thing that really stands out in my mind as a memory that day was my son was a senior at Weed High School. He was also a volunteer with the Weed City Fire Department. And during that time when he was there, he was always engaged in fire activities directly after school and otherwise. When I was initially dispatched to the Bulls Fire, there was an alarm going off at Weed High School at the same time, and it was assumed, but we had to go check to make sure that the students in the high school were safe. And I was the unit that was dispatched to the Weed High School. And as I was approaching the city of Weed and coming into the city of Weed to get to the high school to check on it, I noticed the significant column of smoke from the fire and watched what was soon to be a pretty devastating fire to that community. Although it wasn't that large structure, in total acres, that total devastation of a community, and losing those houses and losing what was the first time to lose the mill up there, which was a significant place to employ several people. A lot of people's worlds were impacted that day. And as I drove into the area, I noticed that my son was standing on the side of the road next to the Weed City Fire Department, and he had left the school when he saw the fire burning, and immediately went and got his gear and was out there. And as a dad, as you're driving into a community and you're watching multiple structures burning as you're driving down a road towards the high school, it can impact you when you realize that your son, who's 17 years old, is engaged in that activity as well. It kind of touches you inside and makes you think. So later on, the Valley Fire happened, and that was 2015, September 12th. From that fire, there was 4 civilian fatalities. There was 1,955 structures destroyed, and while that was occurring, I was part of a strike team heading down to bring a group of fire engines down to the Butte Fire, which in that Butte Fire, I never made it there. 2 civilian fatalities occurred, and 475 residences and 343 outbuildings were burned in that. So as we got down Highway 5 to the Highway 20 overpass exchange, we were listening to radio traffic and realized that Lake County Fire folks were significantly overwhelmed with the Valley Fire. That they had, I believe, a total of 5 engines for a very long period of time, with a lot of acres burning and a lot of homes burning. And we had to make kind of a command decision, which is something you don't do in the fire service, to self-divert to a new set of fires, taking a strike team of engines over there. We were eventually approved of that diversion and actually brought our equipment over to the Valley Fire. But again, driving into a community where we watched animals burning on the side of the road as we were driving in, and homes burning, it was a pretty significant impact, and it definitely caused some emotional scarring inside. As that continued on throughout my career, the Carr Fire on July 23rd, 2018, left 1,604 structures burned, and of those, 1,077 were homes. And then eventually we got to the Camp Fire in November 8th of 2018, where we lost 85 civilians, and 12 civilians with significant injuries, and some firefighters that were injured. With a total acreage of 153,336 acres, it was 18,000 structures destroyed. So a lot of things happen, and PTSD kicks in. And at some point I decided it's time to retire, move on, and get out of the fire service, because I couldn't be part of that. I finished out my career and decided it was really a great idea to probably go do something other than fight fire, because I thought I was probably over that. Thought I'd seen enough in 35 years, but I really learned something quickly. In 2020, when I retired, I went fishing, and I went fishing every day for at least 2 weeks. And for some reason, in that 2 weeks of fishing, I realized I needed to be part of something. I had feelings of emptiness, and I had feelings of helplessness. And because of that, I decided I need to be part of a solution. And much like everybody in this room, you're part of a solution. It's probably each of you has a why. Why are you here today? Why are you part of a fire mitigation organization? Or why are you wanting to make a difference in keeping California safe? It could be climate driven, or it could be you've been impacted yourself and lost fire, lost a home, or lost a family member or a friend. And because of that, I encourage each of you to continually be engaged in Fire Safe Council activities. Now about us. I'm a Northern California regional coordinator for the California Fire Safe Council. And the California Fire Safe Council is a nonprofit, much like other fire safe councils throughout the state. And we were formed through a project in 1993 with the California Department of Forestry. And I'm always glad when I can say California Department of Forestry, because I have a tough time when I say Cal Fire, because when I wore my patch, it said California Department of Forestry. But it's the same organization. It's just grown and changed over the years. The organization, the California Fire Safety Council, brought together a variety of community leaders, government agencies, and corporations and groups to start addressing the dangers of wildfire here in California. And as that was developed, it continually grew into something that it's more of what it is today. It's an organization that hosts a variety of different components. One of the major ones that most people are familiar with would be our clearinghouse. And our clearinghouse is the organization, or part of our organization, that ultimately puts out grant funding to local fire safe councils and other nonprofits and fire mitigation groups across California, so that they can work on a variety of different programs and projects to try to make our state a little bit better than it was. And again, we probably can't change the climate completely, but what we can do is all, like everybody here, be part of a solution. And in that solution, it's trying to come up with ways to figure out how to make our communities or even our own homes safer. And I really enjoy the folks who are here. Marika, I can talk about, even little ideas from family members when they talk about how do we keep our fire rain gutters safe, as it's a constant challenge when you live in the WUI to get up and remove pine needles and things like that. One day, Marika shared with her a great idea from her uncle, who said, you can always plug your rain gutters and fill them up with water, and then they won't, the materials inside them won't burn. those ideas and those thoughts are what this is all about. It's bringing people together through science and technology and ideas to make a difference in our state. And it's always exciting to think of the different parts and pieces of each organization that we can be part of. So through the California Fire Safe Council, I actually work for the programs and outreach team. My goal and one of the specific functions that I do is connect folks in different communities through grassroots groups and in different community groups to get together, to come together to create fire safe councils. Many of them become Firewise communities, which is a program that is put on by NFPA. And our organization, the California Fire Safe Council, encourages and supports that as a partner agency with NFPA. We really enjoy the Firewise idea and making communities safer through the work that's done by them. And again, through the great work of really what comes back to the community members. So each individual group or part of each of these organizations is a huge part of the success. And one of the things that I personally am involved in as an outreach person is training and teaching. And as I mentioned before, when I started this conversation, I'm a storyteller. There's nothing better for me than to tell stories. So as I take those years of experience and education that I have in the fire service and bring it out, I like to try to teach to teach community members or groups how to really be part of that solution. And some of that's done through things like home hardening and defensible space work. So one of the big things that I really support is the zero zone. That as we talk about the zero zone in different communities and different cultures throughout the state, we oftentimes hear, well, I don't want to get rid of the beautification around my house and the beauty that I've created by putting plants. There was a great presentation done earlier this week by IBHS and CAL FIRE, where they went out and actually did a planted fresh green full of water plants around some buildings and conducted some testing both in Sacramento and Los Angeles County, where they used normal weather conditions, current conditions, including a moderate weather, medium temperatures, moderate humidity, and just very light winds, and watched and saw what would happen through having vegetation directly next to a building, green, fresh vegetation, and how that building would be impacted during a house-to-house type fire event. What we saw was from ignition to total destruction, 15 minutes on the test in the Sacramento area, and I believe right at 30 minutes for the test in Southern California, where they just had rain and just had some very favorable weather conditions in regards to the climate. So again, going out and doing outreach to community members and letting them see some of the resources that we have, examples of that IBHS study and other IBHS studies, or existing material that we've all been privy to, and to be able to share that through various sources, including our virtual learning center. Here at the California Fire Safe Council on our website, our communications team oversees the Virtual Learning Center, or VLC as we often refer to it. And that is stacked full of resources for you as community members and for fire safe councils and other organizations to dig into, to find the resources, the studies and materials that are helpful in trying to prepare and teach our communities how to remain safe. So as I mentioned before, our part of our organization, the clearinghouse team, they have grant funding that we obtain through federal and state grants, and we pass that through to different local organizations to help with projects such as fuel reduction or vegetation management or community-based wildfire planning. Oftentimes things like defensible space and or creating escape routes or different projects to make communities safer. Through our organization, one of the things that we're pretty good at is collaboration and partnerships. I think my counterparts in the organization, like myself, have built a Rolodex, if you will, of friends and in different groups and different organizations that we will share to as a hub of communication to bring in more folks to collaborate on projects. And what we find in implementing wildfire mitigation strategies, oftentimes it's those partnerships that really, really help us address the complex challenges of wildfire prevention here in California. Our organization also provides technical assistance and offers expertise in community and organization seeking guidance, including wildfire prevention and mitigation practices, and assisting in helping fire safe councils, local community groups address their needs. Sometimes it's teaching things like the home hardening or the defensible space, or taking it to the next level and teaching CEQA or NEPA to assist organizations on meeting the requirements to do the groundwork necessary to try to make their communities safer. We provide training and workshops, and on our website, you'll notice we have a calendar of events. I encourage everybody to please sign in and take the opportunity to jump on our regional monthly meetings. We call them brown bags. They occur in the North State on the fourth Thursday of the month at noon, and you can sign on and listen to either your local fire safe councils sharing their successes and their challenges and the projects that they're working on, or oftentimes guest speakers that we'll bring in, as mentioned from your previous guest speakers, the Department of Insurance, for example. That'll be my guest presenter, Lisa Strange from the Department of Insurance, this fourth Thursday of this month at noon. And again, you can register and attend that event by signing on and taking a look at our website and the calendar of events. We have individuals who work on research and resources, and our organization compiles and disseminates research on wildfire prevention and mitigation strategies through our VLC and through other learning opportunities and sharing opportunities, making the information accessible to our communities and our stakeholders. Recently, we brought in Vance Taylor from the California Office of Emergency Services to talk about utilizing access and functional needs, the thoughts of that when addressing fire prevention plans in your community and making sure that you're including all of your community members, even those that are impacted with access and functional needs. Overall, the California Fire Safe Council plays a vital role in California efforts to address the ongoing threats of wildfire, particularly in regions where risk of wildfire is high. And as you've all noticed through the CAL FIRE fire mapping that's been done, a majority of our state has very, very high fire hazard, and we're all impacted by that. So California Fire Safe Council contributes to making our communities more resilient in the wildfire space. You'll hear oftentimes people asking the question, well, what is the California Fire Safe Council in comparison to a local fire safe council? Here in California, local fire safe councils are really the grassroots organizations within communities to go out and help us get that message out, and working together to work on making their own communities safer, oftentimes obtaining grant funding through our organization, or just getting information to share with their other community members and neighbors. We have fire safe councils in California that are as small as 2 members, and we have organizations that have several hundred. And so we're very excited. And we have partnerships with different organizations and agencies, such as resource conservation districts, counties, and local government folks who get together with us to try to build what we're really excited about in California, which is our county coordinator program. CAL FIRE funded that program, and we now have, I believe, 50 of our 58 counties in California working through the county coordinator program. When that happens, there's a single place for me as a regional coordinator to reach out to quickly disseminate information to fire safe councils throughout the counties. And as we do that, again, sharing more information and getting more people contacted and having the ability to reach out and touch those people individually and through a great group, a force multiplier, if you will, of resources that we all work together to try to make those communities safer. I have several counties in my regional area. my counties basically are from the Sacramento County all the way north to the Oregon border, reach over to Nevada and then to the coast, and the entire upper section of Northern California are all very important counties to me. And each of those counties have very important local fire safe councils in each of those counties. And many of the counties that I have county coordinators. Then on a fairly regular basis, I reach out to and work on trying to disseminate in very important information through collaboration with our local fire safe councils and fire mitigation groups, sometimes firewise communities, or just groups that want to work on making their neighborhoods a little bit safer. And that's always nice. So with that, early on, our organization was only known for being really a pass-through agency, if you will, and a grant clearinghouse. We've grown with the comms team, now pressing out information throughout the state on a regular basis through various social media networks, as well as our own homepages and different opportunities to reach out to the media to share information, public safety messages or otherwise. We work with a whole variety of different partner agencies and stakeholders. And one of my absolute favorite, and everybody knows Marika and Roberta who are here, it is your county specifically. And Sonoma County is a very, very nice place to visit, and we want to keep it nice. And you've been impacted by fire, and it's always tough reaching to different organizations and counties throughout the state and talking about the history that I shared in the beginning of this presentation, because most everybody here, again, has a why, and you've been impacted individually. And as a community that's been impacted by fire, we all want to be working together. Regionalization sometimes, as it's talked about, is getting all those different organizations and entities together to collaborate and trying to work together to make our entire area safer. As a state fire safe council, our goal is to protect the entire state with regional coordinators and specific people in your area that have a heart because of the communities that they live in and around. And we want to help those specific communities. I have two other regional coordinators in my organization, one in Central California that covers from Sacramento County south to Kern County, and then Southern California, basically from Kern County down to the Mexican border. And as we go into trying to solve our problems and work together, as I mentioned, one of the main things people reach out to us for is grant funding. And we run a variety of different grants, and some of those grants are the CAL FIRE grants. Our CAL FIRE grants include defensible space assistance grants, the county coordinator grant, evacuation route planning and development grants, and there's also state fire assistant grants. And state fire assistant grants are separate. Then we also have special grants through Edison, Southern California Edison, and the RFFC program, where we obtain funding and again pass that through to other agencies to try to support their programs. Fire mitigation program initiatives often supported by government agencies and nonprofits and community groups, and it's aimed at again risk and wildfire reduction and trying to make communities safer. So as we work through these different ideas and way to take care of communities, here's some of the other things that we get involved in as a California Fire Safe Council. CWPP, or the Community Wildfire Protection Plans, and helping each county develop plans so that they can strategize on making their own counties and their specific communities safer. The grant funding that we talked about, both federal and state funding, and sometimes private entity funding or entity funding through our different utilities here in California. We work on community fuel breaks and fuel reduction programs and trying to get very specific mapped out fire breaks created in our community and across our state. Our defensible space programs, we're excited to teach a WFAP or Wildland Fire Assessment Program and HIZ, the Home Ignition Zone Program, to local fire safe councils. And we enjoy having that understanding and background of being former fire folks or folks who have worked in the forestry world to come out and teach those things that we have gained some expertise on over the years. We really enjoy education and outreach. One of the biggest ones that I'm just passionate about is youth education. And my home in Butte County, California, as we mentioned, the Camp Fire, there's several youth that were impacted by the Camp Fire, and their schools and their homes burned down. So we not only work on fire prevention education programs, we also work on some programs to assist those youth that have been impacted by fire, to ensure that they can try to work through some of the PTSD issues that a lot of people are impacted by following the wildfire that happens in our state, and that we've kind of become used to. We also have programs that are focused on supporting prescribed burns, and have had discussions about trying to be a home base, if you will, for all the different prescribed burn associations throughout the state, so that we could possibly create maybe a website and some different resources to support the overall control, prescribed burns as well as cultural burns statewide. One of our goals is, again, to collaborate and to create a regional approach of getting more people together to share information and to share projects and programs to be successful. Our home hardening, we offer guidance in both our WFAP and HIZ training programs to help direct homeowners on how to retrofit their homes to be fire resistant and create designs that are more resilient to wildfire. And then emergency preparedness. I think a lot of our folks here at the California Fire Safe Council are engaged in programs, including the creating evacuation plans, assembling emergency kits, or participating in community drills to make sure that a lot of our communities are safer and hopefully more prepared in the event of a wildfire in the future. We also are involved in invasive species management, collaborative initiatives, including working with landowners and environmental organizations to arrest wildfire comprehensively. And the other things that I think we're pretty well known for is again being a support network for local fire safe councils and county fire safe councils to reach out to try to build their capacity and assist them in capacity building. So with that, I think I'll probably jump over to some Q&A opportunity if anybody's interested, and would love to answer any questions or dig in a little deeper into any of the things that I've talked about today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for that. Yeah, let's just open it up. We have a small enough group where I don't even think we'll have to raise our hands until we start talking over each other. But anybody have any questions from Mike, for Mike, regarding the California Fire Safe Council or anything he talked about? It's got to be something.
There's two questions in the chat. Bruce,
yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Bruce, do you want to unmic and share your question? I'm happy to share it if you don't want to come online. There you go.
Sure. Afternoon, everybody. Mike, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the Fire Safe Council relationship with FireWise and what you do together, what kinds of resources you share, and the things that make each of the organizations unique as well.
Sure. So thank you, Bruce. One of the things that we try to do is collaborate regularly on getting an answer to that very question. It's probably one of the more common answers to say, what is the difference between a FireWise community and a Fire Safe Council? Fire Safe Councils are set specifically for not having any numerical limits to having a Fire Safe Council. As I mentioned, we have groups that are two members of a community working together that call themselves a Fire Safe Council. We also do not currently have any certification or regulatory programs, and we are not requiring anybody to apply or to go through any process to become a Fire Safe Council. That may change in the future, and we've continually discussed that. And as we continue our collaborations with FireWise, which is run through NFPA, we've discussed the possibilities of seeing how we can best work together and again collaborate to make sure that we can offer up the best solutions for a specific community. And one of the things I think that we as an organization, California Fire Safe Council, does is utilize our communications folks to magnify the messages that are put out by the FireWise community to help homeowners and communities create the certified FireWise communities, which receive the benefit of potentially reducing their costs of homeowners insurance or being able to potentially insure in the future, as has been discussed by Department of Insurance and other folks. So that's one of the basic things that where we work together and continue to try to collaborate to be the best partner agency that we can, and again supporting each other. One of the things about FireWise that they do have is a very in-depth fire assessment program. And while we take parts of that and utilize the HIZ training program, we reach out and go directly to community members and community groups. Sometimes just doing the one-on-one of teaching a community member how to assess their local neighborhood only, and reaching out and talking to their neighbors and sharing that message of defensible space and how to make your home a little more potentially survivable during the wildfire event. By working on clearing the zero zone or adding those components to harden your home, for example, covering your gutters or whatever that happens to be to make your home a little safer. So I hope that answers that, Bruce, and I'd love to dig in. If anybody can ever give me a really good written definition of what our differences are or how we work together, I would love to post that somewhere, because that's a fairly common question.
I am working on a crosswalk between a FireWise community and a Fire Safe Council, so I will send it your way for approval before we put it out to the public.
Reka, you're a godsend. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that for me, probably the biggest difference between, say, a local Fire Safe Council and a FireWise community is that a FireWise community clearly has some specific criteria you must meet to become a FireWise community in good standing and maintain that good standing position with the California, with CAL FIRE as well as FireWise USA, whereas local Fire Safe Councils can be quite informal. I mean, you could have 3 people sitting around a cup of coffee, say, hey, let's start a Fire Safe Council. Okay, I declare from this moment forward, we are a Fire Safe Council. So there you go. You don't have to incorporate. There's no regulation that says you have to do A, B, C, or D. Really quite informal. For Fire Safe Sonoma, historically, we've encouraged our local Fire Safe Councils to at least craft a local risk assessment. We call that CWPP, Community Wildfire Protection Plan, or a local CWPP as a handle. While those particular local CWPPs may or may not always be technically written with specific regard to the California Healthy Forest Restoration Act, which has specific criteria if you're writing a CWPP, with the expectation that you'll be using it to work in or around federal lands and get, benefits that way. So I know, kind of long-winded, you guys know me, I can talk a lot. So anyway, for me, the fundamental difference is the formality of the 2 organizations.
That's a great example.
Yeah, and just to cap that off with a FireWise, to become a recognized FireWise community in good standing, you have to also do a local risk assessment, which mirrors very closely the way Fire Safe Sonoma has been doing our local CWPPs, quite honestly.
Very good.
I should have wrote that down. Okay, what were there other, I think there were other questions in the chat, wasn't there, Marika?
Yeah,
Stuart,
Stuart. Yeah, but it looks like Becca's on it and has answered it and given the link to the Northern California, the regional meeting. That sounds like the insurance. You'll have insurance as the topic for that next one, Mike.
Very excited to have Lisa Strange from the Department of Insurance. She's a good friend, and oftentimes when I run into the struggles of a community up here in Northern California saying, hey, we've just had all of our homes in our community canceled by insurance, she's the first person I reach out to, and she's great about providing resources and staff to go attend community meetings to speak on what the Department of Insurance can do and some of the resources available, which is pretty darn handy.
That's awesome.
yeah.
I was wondering if you mentioned that you do WFAP trainings, and I attended one of those up in Siskiyou County, and it was fantastic. Do you plan on doing any more of those soon that we should let our community know about? Anything close to us in Sonoma County, maybe?
We are planning on doing one soon be hosted in Napa County, and would love to have a Napa Sonoma group working together to work on that WFAP/HIZ assessment training and certification. And we're always excited to get the different communities at some of our more remote locations where we teach and train stuff. And Marika, when you got to see the community of Dunsmuir up in Siskiyou County, it's quite different, but at the same time, we're all trying to address that same big thing out there. It's making that home just a little bit safer by reducing that vegetation in the first 5 feet, and then taking a step further by literally having that communication, that one-on-one with the homeowner, to point out those little things that, you know, we're all guilty of. I can go out and teach a WFAP class and then have my fellow regional coordinator come over to my house and visit for an afternoon and go, hey, did you notice you had this over here? And, you know, sometimes we don't even see our own backyards and realize, oh my gosh, leaving some lawn furniture directly up next to my house when I really am teaching that course is one of the things I find myself sometimes being guilty of. So before we had this presentation today, I did run out back and look at my back deck and made sure my lawn furniture is in a safe location currently, at least safer than directly up next to the structure.
Awesome. Great. Well, when you have dates for that or more information, let us know, and we'll share it with our community members. So
I absolutely will. Thank you.
yeah. Good. Okay. Any other questions from anybody? I'm not seeing any more in the chat at this point.
Should we be aware of any grants coming up, or did you cover that and my ears weren't paying attention?
You know, if Becca's still on, I would love to hear of any grants coming up. I think she's a little more in tune to that side of our house. Becca, do you mind jumping off mute?
I do not mind. Great question. I do know that there will be, I'm trying to think of upcoming opportunities. It'll probably be more of like spring 2024 is kind of where we're planning now, of like the upcoming. So there will be another federal grant opportunity for those that have applied for federal grants with us before. So that'll be going on. I would anticipate an update soon, but nothing locked down yet. And then we are actually just rolling out some grants at the moment. So we have some DSpace grant awardees that are just getting started. And let me see. We also have our mitigation messenger that'll be launching, and any grant updates that'll be live will be included in that when that launches as well. Also recommend, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, that is the quickest way to hear about upcoming grant opportunities when those go live. So a TBD, stay tuned.
Okay.
Thank you, Becca.
Absolutely.
Well, gosh, are we gonna break early today? It's 9 minutes before the hour. Well, we answered all the questions, and I took care of your question, Susie. Thank you for that. I just updated that and it's all done. We addressed Stuart's comment. Okay, well, Mike, thanks so much for the presentation.
Thank
And,
you.
yeah, always a pleasure. Thanks for the shout out for Ronnie Coleman.
Again, a good friend, and made a significant impact in our state as the state fire marshal and as a fire chief, to as a leader, a role model for younger fire chiefs back in my day.
Yeah, he was one of my fondest mentors, and I'm having a very tough time right now, keep him from falling apart. So
Yeah.
I will miss him.
Well, I look forward to hopefully seeing folks at the WFAP when we'll get that information over to you. There are some other events happening across the state as in the next 2 months, and we'll be doing a lot of traveling. And if anybody in your community happens to want to see, next week we'll be down at the Heat and Fire Expo in Anaheim, California. We'll be talking to several vendors to help create a vendors list for all of our fire safe councils. What our intentions are is to actually create a document or a list of folks that do different projects or different things in the world of wildfire. And hopefully we'll be able to put some lists and some resources together that weren't there before. Besides that, Coastal Quest is coming up next month down in the Ronald Reagan library, and looking forward to seeing folks if they can make it down there to that. A great presentation, and a lot of our great California fire leaders meeting down there to both present and talk about things happening in the world of wildfire. And boy, it just seems like we have all sorts of stuff. The county coordinators will be meeting during next month and getting together, and I look forward to joining those meetings and getting to see our county coordinators and talking about what's happening in each county in the North State. And as more information comes available, again, please check our website for the California Fire Safe Council, our events and calendar page, and see what's happening across the state. We try to keep that posted. And if you're having an event, let us know and we'll post it on there as well. And we'll try to encourage more folks coming to your events by, again, blasting out information on social media through our comms team, and trying to get all of your information out as well. So thanks again, everybody. It was so nice to see all of you, and I appreciate and truly thank you for the work you're doing in your communities to help keep California safe.
Yeah, and Mike, we have some folks that are asking us for a WFAP training, because we do 1 or 2 a year. And I might send some of those folks to the Napa event, or at least give them the opportunity to go there, in case they want to get it before we do our next WFAP presentation. So
perfect. I will make sure that you and Marika are both included in the coordination meetings for the future.
okay, great. Thanks.
All right. Thank you
so much, Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
Have you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
all. Thanks, Mason and Marika, for all your help with this. All right, we'll talk to you guys. See you next month.
Bye.
Where we have Nancy Brown next month. We'll see you guys. And we're clear. Thanks, Mason.
Of course. Yeah.